Dr. Quinton Hennigh, thank you for
No
joining us
problem.
today. I was recommended that you are one of the people we need to talk to who knows a lot about some of the top quality silver junior miners or exploration companies out there. And thank you very much for joining us. We also have Lee Justo from the Wall Street Silver community to ask our questions today. Thank you, Dr.
Good morning,
Quinton.
everyone.
So
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So which companies did you want to chat about today? We have three we wanted to cover briefly, each of them. Which three do you want to cover today?
Yeah, look, I'd like to talk about three exploration stage companies. One's heading towards production, but I want to talk about three exploration companies that I think will deliver, we'll call it high value silver discoveries over the next few months or coming years. One is called Defiance. It's based in Mexico, or focused on the Zacatecas area in Mexico. Second one is Eloro, which is exploring a large disseminated deposit down in Bolivia. And then the last one is Kuya. And Kuya is an interesting one because it has a high-grade vein system in Peru, which it's putting into production, or will soon be. But then it also has a large exploration play on a very high-grade system up in Canada. So those are the three companies we'll talk about.
So let's dive right in. Do we want you want to do Kuya first? We actually just recently interviewed the CEO, David Stein, from Kuya. So some of our audience probably already saw that video. You want to do that one first?
Sure. Let's talk about Kuya first. Look, David, who I've known now for a couple of years, he worked for Eric Sprott directly. So he's good friends with Eric, has a lot of respect in the Toronto community. And he is also has a very clear focus at Kuya in the silver space. Okay, so he's looking at high grade silver assets. And Bethania, which is the mine he's acquired in Peru, was in operation. It was an actually producing mine not too long ago, a few years ago, back 2016, when the silver price was quite low. And they operated the mine by mining rock out of the ground, trucking it down the hill, and then they had an agreement with the neighboring company to actually crush up the rock and treat it in their mill, the silver mill down the hill. But that company, because of the low prices of silver and so forth, that milling company actually went out of business. So it kind of stranded the asset. Basically, the asset was only partially developed, and David was very smart, picked up this high quality asset and recognized it could be brought back into production very quickly. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're now drilling. They announced, I think yesterday or within the past 2 days, an aggressive drill program, and they're going to drill up some more of these high grade veins, extensions of the existing veins, areas that should add a lot of tonnage to this deposit, and build up a case that's a multi-year mine. It's an exciting point in time. It's really good space for the silver market right now. So when David came to me in March of last year, right in the middle of COVID, and told me he wanted to use one of my shell companies, I said, bring it on, let's go. So
what's he doing? We did talk with him. He's doing something with that mill that wasn't successful, and he's acquired that, and he's doing some tender loving care to get it back into shape, or he's building fresh. What's the strategy?
Building fresh. So,
okay.
The mine, Bethania mine, is way up on top of the mountain, and he is looking at building a standalone mill for the operation right there. Okay, so rather than trucking it down and relying on toll milling agreements and stuff like that, he's looking to build a mill right at Bethania and put the thing back into production, and have the security to know that he has his own mill. It's a great, it's something to be fast tracked. So it's a great opportunity to advance an asset very, very quickly.
What do you think his resource base is, and what price of silver do you think he needs to be successful on this project?
Yeah, look, it's exceptionally high grade. The production over the past few years before it shut down was about 16 ounces of silver. So, I mean, this is a very high grade deposit. It had a bit of other metals, base metal and even a sniff of gold as well. But silver delivered most of the value. 16-ounce silver, that's incredible. Like
Mhm.
do a little math, you can see we're dealing with a very high grade deposit. I
Uh-huh.
think we can continue to deliver that type of grade. This system, looking at the data that I've seen, it looks like it should be a very, very high grade mine. As far as the next steps, like they're drilling 5,000 meters in the current program, and that meterage will be what goes into ascertaining the size of the deposit in these veins. So that's going to take a couple of months, but once we have all that data back, I think people will see that this can easily be a tens of millions of ounce type silver system.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Wow.
Lee?
I'm curious how you pick the management teams that you work with. What I've read through the years is that management team on a mining company is probably the most critical factor in the success of a company.
It is like there's no bones about it. When you operate in the mining space, you have to have good technical people, whether it be at the exploration level or the operational level. And that's really one of the three ingredients I look for. It's not just the asset. I mean, obviously the asset is one ingredient. It's the team to run it. There's a lot of great projects in companies that do not have a team capable of advancing it, getting value out of the assets. Then there's occasionally some teams, like in this case David Stein, who have great, strong technical abilities, but didn't have the company, the vehicle to operate, and that's the case here. So we brought, basically Kuya was combined with Miramont, which is a shell company that I was involved with, and we put them together, and now we have the dream team. We've got dream team running it and a high quality asset.
All right, let's move on to Defiance Silver. I've talked with them before. I think we're going to have the CEO on in a few weeks. What do you know about Defiance? Let's tell our audience about them.
It is an exploration company, but they have two different projects we got to talk about here. Okay, so the first project at Zacatecas is, now they bolted together some more land, so people can read some recent news releases about their strategy. Okay, they've done a very good job putting together additional land around their primary target, which is the Veta Grande system. It's a vein system. Okay, in this case, we're talking about a hot spring silver deposit. So this basically was a silver deposit that formed in conjunction with volcanism a while back. We'll say a few tens of millions of years ago. It heated up the groundwaters. You get fluids moving through the ground. It brings silver out of these magmas up to surface, forms very high grade veins. And Mexico is prolific with these types of deposits. If you look, there's high grade veins camps all across Mexico. That's what made Mexico so famous. Look back to the Spanish time. The Spanish derived a lot of silver from Mexico. All right. These camps, while people think, oh my goodness, surely they run out of silver over time or something like this. No, look, these things, many of these camps are huge. They continue to deliver as people explore. And what I really like about Defiance is they've got some very smart people in place. It goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago about smart team. They have a very smart geologic team in place now, and they've kind of remade themselves. Okay, they were struggling back during the low silver prices. They did make discovery back, I think it was around 2016, somewhere in that time period, and they did okay briefly, but the silver price just beat them up for a while. But now they brought in fresh geologic team. They have a very clear vision about this system, and this Veta Grande target that they're looking at is simply converging at depth. It's kind of like, think of it like a branches on the tree. They're now starting to chase this thing down in the ground, and hopefully going to find the trunk of the tree in this case, and with that, hopefully a very nice wide vein system with very high grades. Okay, that's a kind of prize you can get if you explore some of these old silver camps in Mexico. It's actually a wonderful outcome. Now they have one other project. They have what's called the Cobalt deposit. It's in southern Mexico, so it's further south, I guess southwest from Zacatecas. And Cobalt is a gold copper system. So it's a little bit different, but it is a very, very high quality asset, open pitable type system. They recognize there's huge exploration potential there. And again, they have a very smart team. They acquired the property recently. So they've just started putting the data together and really forming a picture of where the exploration potential is. I looked at it, reminds me of some world-class copper gold systems I know of. And I think they have a very good prize in hand. They got it for very cheap too. If you look back to their news over the past couple of years, you'll see that it was a sweet deal. All right, so they're well positioned in Mexico, good geologic team, and I think that they have a very good future ahead of them.
Well, yeah, we're going to dive deeper into Defiance when we have their CEO on in a few weeks, and I think he even mentioned he wanted to do that interview with you also with him at the same time. Sure. So stay tuned on that one. Defiance, a deeper dive into Defiance Silver is coming up. And I'll be linking all these companies in the description of this video. So let's move on to Eloro. This was described to me by a friend of mine as higher risk, higher potential.
Well, Bolivia, there is a jurisdictional risk around Bolivia. People have, most people are aware Bolivia is, basically a socialist state for many, many years. I think things are morphing here recently. You look since Maduro, there's been new president come in, and the new president has made it very clear to the outside world that he's open for investment, in particular in mining, which is a refreshing thing to see in Latin American countries. So we're on the upswing in that regard. It reminds me of where other countries in South America were just a few years ago, like Ecuador. It was very challenging to work in Ecuador, but now there's lots and lots of explorers operating in Ecuador. I think you're seeing the same thing happen in Bolivia. Eloro is really a first mover in many regards, at least in the exploration space. Yes, there's some companies that came into Bolivia and picked up more advanced assets, but Eloro is truly doing grassroots work. And what makes them special is that they have in-house one of the best geologists, probably the best geologist in Bolivia, Osvaldo Arce. And Osvaldo, he knows every target across the country. Okay, so when we're talking, there's a common theme here, all right, where you have to have a good team. With Osvaldo, we have that very, very good team. Anyway, Osvaldo recognized that this particular area, Isca, hosts a large system of alteration. Like you look at the rock around this area, and it's just been blasted like by hot waters and fluids and stuff that have changed it dramatically. And when you compare that to other systems in this area, like Cerro Rico de Potosi, it's similar in magnitude, similar in size, similar geology. Cerro Rico de Potosi is basically the largest silver deposit on Earth. It's produced over 1 billion ounces of silver. It has probably on the order of 1 billion ounces of resource left. It's been mined for eons. It's been mined for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, Isca, very similar geology. If you look at the alteration, it's showing us the same kind of system. It's basically formed in an extinct volcano. In the volcano, the magma chamber came up, and the magma chamber is what drives the mineral system in these cases. The difference between Isca and Cerro Rico de Potosi is that you don't have as much erosion. Okay, over time, as Mother Nature wears the surface down, sometimes it goes a bit faster, a bit deeper than other areas. Like Cerro Rico de Potosi, Mother Nature's cut straight down into the guts of the system, hence exposed it. At Isca, it's quite interesting. There's still about 200 meters of, we'll call it the cap rock, the lithocap, over the top of this thing that's hiding or protecting the entire system. Yeah, this is quite exciting, because it means that people did not readily identify this thing back in the day. They couldn't see mineralization sticking out of the ground, so they thought, interesting, but walked away. Well, when we started poking holes down into it, guess what? We're finding a huge system, and it's entirely preserved. Yeah, this is a wonderful outcome. It's big. When you talk about systems like geologically, this thing is huge. This caldera is almost 2 kilometers across. We've just started drilling it in September of last year. It's delivered some remarkable results. I think the banner hole that we had back that really was called Discovery Hole, and I think it was late January we announced that, was something like 257 meters of about 4.3 ounces, I think, something silver equivalent. There's silver, there's base metal, there's tin, there's even a bit of gold and some other things in here. All right, so it's typical of these systems. You get just kind of a smorgasbord of metals. You get half the periodic table in these things, but silver is probably the predominant metal. Then things like zinc, lead, tin. In this case, I think tin is going to be very, very important. We're starting to drill deeper holes that are starting to see significant tin.
There's been a lot of tin shortages. One of the fellows I follow on Twitter is he's raving and raving. Why are people should be talking more? The tin market's tiny, and
it's funny. I did my PhD and I did my master's and PhD on tin about 30 years ago, and I thought, boy, am I ever going to use this? I don't know. And here we are 30 years later, and we forgot to look for tin. Basically, the geologic community, the commodity community, forgot to look for tin. So we don't have any, we'll call it pristine tin discoveries in recent time. And a lot of the alluvial deposits in Southeast Asia are being mined out. They're mined out, and the sources for tin are just starting to dwindle. So this is a great time.
Someone told me that's connected to all of the chip shortages that we're seeing in the auto industry right now. Is they literally have been slowing down production at Tesla and other companies because they can't get enough of the chips that they need to go inside these cars, and it's at its core a tin shortage.
I don't mean to sound evil, but I am so happy to see a lot of these new industries or new technologies that require these special metals realize, oh my gosh, we need that stuff, because I think you'll see an entire re-education of society around the importance of the resource sector and going out and looking for this stuff, and then developing mines. I mean, it's that simple. If people take stuff for granted, they don't care. But if they realize, oh my gosh, we need this stuff badly, they start caring very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. So is there a formal resource update yet for Eloro, or when can
No, we've just begun.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. You're at a very early stage there. Can we expect something maybe by the end of the year, more formally, or?
Look, the company is currently raising a significant amount of money, I think around 20 million. And that's going to allow them to put 4 drills up on the hill. And yes, Bill Pearson and Osvaldo Arce have a very well formulated plan to systematically drill up a sizable area that could be put into resource. So I would say whether it's late this year or sometime next year, or early next year, I don't know. But they will have 4 rigs up on the hill, and that should generate a lot of data.
Okay. Well, great.
Quinton, I have a quick.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have a quick question for you. How are they raising their capital? Are they going to the public markets? Are they doing a
private placement?
They're like a lot of basically all companies in the junior space. They're doing a private placement. Now, this is what's called a bought deal. Okay, there's different kinds of placements out there. A company can go around and solicit shareholders and try to raise money without a broker. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it, you go hire a broker to go around and help you raise money. Fine, that guy or gal can go around and try to contact investors. Usually the company interacts to market the story. But in this case, what this is, it's a brokered bought deal. The broker themselves said, we like this story so much that we are very confident we will find you the placees, the people who are going to put in money. Okay, so the broker basically agrees, yeah, we're going to write you a check. Okay, think of it like that. A bought deal is like a check that's guaranteed. So the company goes, a guaranteed check. Yes, we need the cash to do this work. Let's take it. And then it's up to the broker to fill orders for that. And in this case, it's such an exciting story, a big story, that was easily manageable.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much, Quinton. We've covered the three. We're going to dive deeper into.
If
Go
there's
ahead, Lee.
one, look at Kuya, we did not talk about the Cobalt District. If I could just talk.
Oh yeah,
briefly.
sure. We love
Okay.
Kuya.
Okay, look, all right. In addition to the Bethania project in Peru, which is a high-grade development stage project, Kuya has recently acquired a very famous silver camp in Canada. They've done a deal that covers much of the old Cobalt camp. Okay, the Cobalt camp is in Ontario. It's near the Quebec border. It is the highest grade silver camp in Canada, and it's produced over 300 million ounces of silver, very high grades. The camp was discovered in the late 1800s. The old timers found veins, and oftentimes these veins are skinny, just a few inches maybe wide, but they are absolutely dripping with native silver. Basically, Mother Nature has created and refined pure silver in veins, which is remarkable. Okay, so this camp is very famous. Kuya now controls the lion's share of it, including some of the historic mines, mining centers, where there was a lot of silver produced. Okay, now there is data on this property. I've looked at this model in depth, and there are drill holes. These are historic drill holes drilled within the past few decades that have astounding silver intercepts. Maybe a half a meter wide, but they're phenomenal numbers, hundreds to not, if not thousands of grams per ton. We see a lot of very low hanging fruit here, and we plan to do proper study. We have to study the structures and figure out where the veins are going and stuff like that. But we plan to aggressively tackle this thing. So Kuya is not just about developing a mine in Peru. They, like I said, David Stein likes silver. He recognized this opportunity in cobalt, very high grade, and he's done a great job bolting this together. He really has a bigger vision of making Kuya into a significant mid-tier silver company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've talked with him before, and we'll talk with him again in the future. I think we've talked to him twice now for Wall Street Silver. But yeah, thank you for diving deeper into that. That is, most of the people just talk about the Mexican near-term project and forget that there's more to that opportunity up in Canada also. The optional play in the future, I think after they get Mexico up and running, that's when he plans to focus a little bit more attention up in Canada on their secondary resource.
Yeah.
Well, Quinton, this
All
has
right.
been Lee, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask you, I mean, you've been in the business now well over 25 years, correct?
Yes. Actually,
So-
since I was 16, I started working in silver mine up above my house here. Yeah.
So in all that time, I'm sure you've seen a tremendous advancement in technologies in the mining sector. Of the three properties that you talked about, is the newer technologies in the sector helping? I mean, the last property mentioned said that a big cap of rock over it. Is it more profitable now because of the technological advances to go after such a property?
Yeah, look, there have been a lot of technological advances, but also a lot of advances in our understanding as geologists of these systems. Prior to, say, 20, 30 years ago, before people like Osvaldo did his work in Bolivia, the understanding of these systems wasn't so good. Okay, now we understand the position, like the relative depth at which they form and other critical aspects. So we can now start to think in three dimensions. Yes, we have a big alteration package here, and down below somewhere, maybe, and looking at deposits around the area, you say, okay, maybe 500 meters below, there should be something driving this. And guess what? We poke a hole down and wham, we go right into it. So it's basically a combination of advancement in our understanding of nature, geology, deposits, as well as technological advances. Today, we have much better geophysical techniques. We have great geochem techniques. We have new analytic techniques that are being developed, in fact, on a continual basis. Like now we have handheld XRF devices. These are machines that you can put in your hand, just like in Star Trek, and you can go up and you can pick up a rock and bam, zap it, and you can actually see
what the content is.
you can see a lot of the metal content in that rock.
Wow.
These are things we didn't have 20 years ago, 40 years ago, by any stretch. So yes, this is critical these days, guys. I'm telling you, most of the low hanging fruit, the stuff that was sticking out of the ground, it's been picked over. Yeah, there's some corners of the world where there's still some, we'll call it, deposits literally sticking out of the ground. But most of the time, we now have to put our smarts on and then use new technology, to find what we call blind deposits. These are deposits that are buried and require a little more sophistication and thought about how to target them.
Do you still think there's a lot of silver to be found, or do you think that most of it's gone?
Well, I'm gonna share a screen here. Can you guys see this chart that I've just put up on the screen?
Yes.
This is a chart that SRS Rocco's puts out. Right? He recently updated it with 2020 data, showing that average yields have been in decline for the past 15 years. And this is just sort of tracking the, primary silver mining. But this sort of addresses what Quinton just talked about. I think all the easy, sticking out of the ground silver has been picked over. And this is sort of the good argument for why silver prices are destined to just skyrocket at some point as supply, the industrial demand is rising, the financial coin and bar demand is rising through the roof, actually, this year. And at some point, physical demand is just outstripping supply here, and price is going to have to respond.
Look, there's a lot behind this chart right here. Okay, what you said is very true, and really that goes for a lot of metals. Okay, gold included, silver certainly. Is that over time we found and mined the easy pickets, the easy ones, and those early deposits, very high grade oftentimes. Look back in the United States history, back in the late 1800s, there was one major silver camp found after another. We had a glut of silver for a while because we found so many super high grade deposits. They were just cranking out silver, all across the United States and Mexico. Well, today we're now, in a position where we mine through those and we have to go after the harder deposits. Okay, that means we got to be more technologically savvy and figure out how we can extract metal out of lower grade rock. That's certainly a part of this. Is that going to change? Look, there's probably a few silver deposits to be found. These would be blind silver deposits that are high grade. But by and large, we're faced with the future that you just put in front. Okay, I don't see any magical, massive silver discovery, very high grade, especially, that's going to change the trajectory of that chart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to answer your question, though, do we have silver in front of us? Yes, but we got to explore for it, guys. And this is a message I like to deliver: is that people on this planet who use stuff every day, they use metals, they use computers, they have cars, etc. I'll tell you, there's a total disconnect between your average user and where all that stuff comes from.
Yeah, they have no comprehension of
no clue.
Mining is crit. I mean, we want all these green technologies, but it requires mining to actually make green technology to happen.
Exactly, and until you see that reconnected, that people, like we were talking about earlier, the shortage of tin, until we see people realize that they got to have these critical metals, silver included. Okay, silver is actually becoming more and more important. I remember when silver, they thought, oh my gosh, photography's done. Like conventional photography, it's done. Nobody's going to need silver anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? I mean, look at our silver demand today. It's going up. There's all sorts of uses. All right.
I'm sure they use it in the new cameras that don't have silver film in it, right?
There you go. Exactly. So look, guys, unless humanity, I mean, truly, your average Joe understands where metals come from and the importance of mining, we're going to be in a tight spot. Everybody frowns on mining. Oh, not in my backyard. Oh, mining's terrible. You know what? Rubbish.
It's just going to drive the price higher, Quinton. That's just going to drive the price higher.
It's going to drive the price higher. But like if I had a message for millennials right now, you know what? yeah, you know, if you're, environmentally conscious and you want to do something, you know what you got to do? You got to go in the mining industry. Why? Because then you can apply your values, your principles, your smarts, and you can come into the mining industry and actually do some good. Okay, think about that. It's a paradigm shift. Okay, we need to see people jump up and go, oh my gosh, we need these metals. I think I'm going to go work in a mining company, and I'm gonna figure out how to do this efficiently and environmentally safely, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's a shift in thinking. We need to get there. We need to
Yeah.
get there.
Quinton, you've been a pleasure to talk to, and let's do this again because I know you're going to be on with us with Defiance Silver in a few weeks, but you are a wealth of knowledge, sir, and I think we definitely need to talk to you again. I hope you
Anytime,
enjoyed
man.
this, and we can do it again sometime.
Certainly, my pleasure.